So, life is not a problem to be solved, right? You are not a problem to be solved. Satsang is not a place where we solve problems. What we're up to here is reconnecting and remembering at the frequency level the true essence nature. And when we are resting in this frequency of true nature, everything that we think are problems to be solved disappear into the beauty and glory of the essence nature. And maybe what we discover is that you're not a problem to be solved, but you are the puzzle piece. You are the presence that is being sought for. You are that which seems to be missing in the life. You are that which you seem to be lacking. And it's not outside of you that wholeness or fullness is. There's no other part of you outside of yourself. And that's the glory of what we are opening to and remembering and resonating at and as when we join in what we call satsang, when we gather. And when our gathering is at the frequency where we're called by the longing of the heart to know the truth of who we are, to know the love that we are. And there's so many ways of languaging this, but ultimately the most simple and that which speaks to you in your own heart is the best way of languaging it, right? It's really simple. It's about knowing our own wholeness, coming to recognize that the true nature is happiness, is joy, that life is a celebration. And if that is not what we are living, then that is the clue that says, okay, not how do I solve this problem, but how do I uplift the frequency of my true nature and bring more light to illuminate that what feels to be discordant is not a problem to solve, but in the resonant remembrance of the true nature, the light itself, we could say in that languaging, solves all sense of problem. The light itself illuminates and reveals that there never has been a problem. And this can be the part that can be tricky for the mind to understand because it feels so convincing when life is presenting challenges. And it can feel like, wow, I've lived a whole lifetime of however many years trying to fix and solve. How can that be possible that I could be so deluded, right? That's one of the things that we have to hold very lightly, because not only have we been deluded in this lifetime, we've spent many lifetimes in delusion, right? And what incredible grace. We're being given the possibility of ending delusion in this lifetime. This lifetime is offering the most incredible and likely possibility of seeing through the delusion and ending the cycle of samskara and finding the true reality that then means that we don't reincarnate into the play of cause and effect, because that whole realm is a realm of mind, right? The whole life of problem, of division, limitation, reincarnation, karma, it's all a delusional mind game. And it's a game that we can't win. How frustrating, right? But the grace is that we can't win it. And the fact that we can't win it shows us that there's another way. And the way is not to try to win it, because it's not a game that is set up to win. It's a game that's set up to transcend, right? Right, so when the word transcend comes, we can go a bit, whoa, don't say transcend. We don't want to, escape the reality of life. But to transcend is to transcend the delusion, transcend the illusion of separation, transcend the misunderstanding that there is any kind of division. And in that we realize that the only way out of the delusion and the great misunderstanding and belief in separation is to rise and raise the frequency of the glory and the essence knowing of true nature, so that we bring in more light that can illuminate, and we bring in the technology and power of love that holds everything in an open, inclusive, welcoming embrace, because love sees only itself. And when love sees only itself, there's a melting of the veiling of delusion. There's a melting of the screens of Maya. And what we're speaking of, the mind can't fully understand, although of course the mind can follow on a certain level and conceptualize, but the mind can't fully understand. And so it's not about trying to understand, and that's why it's not about fixing and changing and problem solving, because on the level of fixing, changing and problem solving, we're actually just perpetuating the cycle of guilt and shame and something wrong with me, right? And as we perpetuate that cycle of fixing, changing, we're just perpetuating and kind of feeding and nourishing the belief instead of illuminating the belief as not a good one, not a one to put all of our chips on, right? That not to put all your chips on the belief that there's something wrong with you, that you're broken and wounded and you need to spend this life trying to fix yourself through making yourself a problem to solve or a self-improvement project, right? Can save us an awful lot of money if we just stop thinking that we need to buy something else that's going to improve us, right? Whatever it is. I mean, ultimately, everything that we generally spend money on is a way of making us feel better on some level or improving ourselves. Whereas ultimately, freedom is realizing that the heart knows what is true, right? You're not a problem to solve. You're not a fixer-upper project, right? That's not what's going on here. And as we come to the frequency of truth, as we come to the frequency of reality, we realize that we open to this knowing in spite of or despite any ideas that the mind has that we're wounded or broken or not whole. And we realize, oh, I can open to this revelation without fixing and changing, without getting myself to a certain place that I have created as a spiritual goal or ambition for myself. I can actually open to a sense of deep peace and revelation, just as I am. Wow, right? That's the wow, that's the awe and wonder of the true nature, is like a mind-blowing, awesome recognition that you don't need to change anything about yourself to have this revelation, that in the way the character and the story is a complete sideline a complete sideline to what the truth of what this life is all about. And that's why sometimes we call it a distraction, because we can get so distracted in the idea of fixing, changing, because we're held in a belief there's something wrong with me. And we're living at that frequency of fear, and it feels so convincing because it's a multidimensional 3D experience. But it's, right, important, 3D. It's a 3D experience. It's not a full multidimensional experience of wholeness. A 3D experience is a limited experience because there's many more Ds, dimensions, than 3, right? Many, many more. Not even only 5, right? There's a lot of speak, I understand, about living in the 5th dimension and thinking that that is the ultimate. But we're speaking 12th dimension here, right? We're speaking ultimate, infinite, supreme light. We're not speaking about limited dimensionality. We're speaking about being the absolute entirety and wholeness of the divine, a full capacity, full firepower, multidimensional being, right? And not even creating conceptual ideas of dimensional limitation, right? Take a pause. Just notice what's happening as the words come. Because the beauty of this revelation is that it's already known in the heart. And in a way, as the words come and the speaking happens, it's an invitation that's like a transmission attunement at the frequency of love and glory and celebration that says, hey, join the party, why don't you? Right? It's an invitation to attune to your connection to source, and an invitation to attune to what the heart already knows, and to revel in the knowing of the heart, and open and join in this transmission field of grace. Makes you smile. Because this is what the heart is longing for. This is what we're longing for in the human life. We can spend so much of the life, wondering, when is someone going to tell me about my special mission? When is someone actually going to speak about like what we're truly here for, right? Most of us likely had this experience as a child of like, oh God, why is no one actually talking about the light and the glory and the beauty? Why is everyone so miserable here, right? And we learn to join the misery, and we make an unconscious commitment to not be too happy, not be too shiny and radiant, not to be in the frequency of celebration, because everyone around here seems to be up to something else. And in order to be nourished and taken care of, it looks very like I'm going to have to join their way of seeing things. And we make this unconscious commitment, right? We make the original compromise where we say, okay, okay. And we don't really have a choice. And that's part of the game, right? It's part of how the divine has the most incredible compassion and willingness to make itself appear as divided in order to know itself and go through this incredible process of realization in order to free this entire dimension realm, right? So the special mission, right? We know this feeling, and whatever languaging we have. It's like that feeling. And we can also come to this sense of feeling like, oh, I shouldn't make myself special. I shouldn't, give myself airs and graces. But we have this sense, that's how it felt here, like, I have a special mission here, like, I'm different to everyone else. And we get this sort of sense of, does no one else like know what I know? And we have our own version of it. And we can even just travel through life feeling like, nobody really sees me. Nobody's really like meeting me, right? And we try all of these ways to be seen and be met and be known like in a really deep way. And we enter the realms of the spiritual journey, and we're hoping that within the spiritual journey that maybe something, will be revealed around this. And we start touching into a sense of, oh, okay. But we can still continue to be disappointed because ultimately the revelation is in our own heart. And the special mission that we're here for is to know our own true nature and to live as love and to reconnect fully to the intuitive knowing that we came in with and where we made that original compromise to realize that that served us in the moment, but we don't have to spend our whole lifetime in that unconscious commitment, where in a way we could say the unconscious commitment is, I take a vow to play it small, to pretend that I'm not the glory of God, I'm not a child of God. I take a vow to be kind of fairly mediocre in the way I live my life, a little bit miserable, definitely not to shine too bright. And I take a vow to make sure that I definitely keep in alignment with the consciousness of my family and the culture around me so that I don't upset the equilibrium. And that's how I'll get my needs met. That's how I'll stay safe. And then we kind of forget that we made that vow. We made that bond. And that misunderstanding starts to take root, and we start to actually believe the truth of division, limitation, separation. And we start living in a frequency where we believe that there is something wrong with me. And we create that belief because we start noticing everyone's kind of miserable around here except me. Maybe it's my fault. Maybe I'm responsible. Right? We don't really understand what's going on, but we just start to kind of merge with the general atmosphere that we find ourselves in. And in that, these unconscious commitments are made that we don't have any recollection of. And that's the unconscious, and it's the preverbal material that we don't actually have access through. And even through psychological means, we don't generally access it because it's so deep that it can only be accessed in the presence of love, in the presence of the true light. And so in a way, only as we enter revelation and deep remembrance and the frequency of love and the frequency of a light that has the power to illuminate, do we actually have the capacity kind of restored where we can really look upon the life from a different perspective. And we look upon the life from the perspective that says, oh my goodness, I do not need to fix or change or try to work it out over there in the realm of mind and life and story. It's just about remembering and resonating at the frequency of God and glory, reconnecting to intuitive knowing and really nourishing this truth in order that then it's like bringing back online the full capacity of consciousness and the technology that has the power to illuminate and truly love, right? So true love, openness, unconditionality. So the perfect spotless love that we hear of associated to Yeshua, right? And God is It's a perfect, spotless love. It's an unconditional, untainted, pure, divine love that doesn't or has never divided in any way. And it's not an emotional love. It's not a currency. It's not a bargaining. It's not a feeling. And in a way, we could say there that that feeling of love that we get for another, or the feeling of love that we get, is because in that moment, we're dropped into the love that we are. Like there's a willingness to be vulnerability through a recognition. And we touch into the love that we are. And then we can imagine that, oh, the love is out there. It's between us. It's for that one. But actually, it's a touching into, it's a tool to touch into the love that we are, the beauty that we are, and to deepen that knowing. And as we deepen that knowing, we deepen our capacity to truly love, to truly be the unconditional love, to be an emanation, like to be the living technology of that love that just loves, that is patient and kind, right? So just to notice what is happening in the field of frequency in your heart, in your recognizing, just, and that isn't an intellectual need to understand or even give words to. It's an intuitive recognition of just where you're resonating, and recognizing a sense of something that feels true for you. You're recognizing, you're using not your mind, you're cognizing with your consciousness. You're cognizing and you're bringing in the true intelligence, which is where you recognize yourself, is in the intelligence, the field of intelligence. It's consciousness recognizing and remembering itself, cognizing itself, recognizing, because there's never been a division. So we're not creating a new situation. We're recognizing, we're refining the nervous system and the consciousness to have a capacity to cognize itself, and to, in a way, be able to hold a sense of presence with itself, so that the revelation is a constant abiding one, right? The reason that the revelation seems to come and go is partly because our nervous system is so attuned to living in division and giving command and priority to the mind, that we've learned to not really just truly rest in our intuition and true deep intuition and presence as a reality. And also part of that is that we don't rest because we're distracted trying to work on that fixer-upper project, right? We're distracted trying to make the me better, trying to be seen and validated in the play of the world and through the external. Whereas our deepest knowing, and that's what we're inviting and bringing online in a gathering such as this, that gets called Satsang, as we gather in the light, as we gather in truth, as we gather called together by the longing of the heart, we gather in a way that isn't about learning anything. It's not about fixing problems. It's about joining in a frequency field that's a transmission field, an activation field, an attunement field of light frequency transmission, where we join with the divine, we join with the perfect, spotless purity, and we open to receive the upgrades and recalibrations and reorganizations of our system, and allow the intelligence to flow, and in a way for blockages to be cleared and upgrades to come in. And the light itself is an intelligence, the consciousness is an intelligence that just comes flowing in as we join and we open to receive, not only when we gather, but whenever we are gathered in thy name, or whenever we are just resting in the frequency, the upgrades and the recalibrations are happening. Let's say they're happening at a more amplified level, because there's always intelligence moving. But sometimes the ways the intelligence will move by grace is that it will bring in challenges in the life. And that is upgrades happening, right? It doesn't feel as glorious as like bathing and soaking together in the pristine frequency of divine love. But even when something challenging comes in the life, that too is an upgrade, right? And then we come to this other side of this glorious unfolding, is that yes, we attune to the frequency of truth. And as we attune to the frequency of truth, we have this possibility to then look upon life from a different perspective, right? Where we're looking upon life from a perspective that isn't, we're not playing a victim to life. Life isn't hurting us, creating kind of crazy situations and trying to kind of bomb us with challenge. But life is trying to bomb us with truth. It's trying to just drop the clues in everywhere. And part of the way that we're offered this grace is by, at times, certain challenges coming in to upgrade us through receiving a reflection of either meeting our blind spots and discordant frequencies, and also in very subtle ways of just meeting the frequencies of resistance that can come up, that keep us limited and held back and kind of in our comfort zones, right? So there's so many ways that grace and love is working to recalibrate us through the intelligence and the frequencies in the transmission of the field of light. So again, as these words come, just to feel where you start to resonate at a certain recognizing a certain truth, because this field of intelligence is what we are made of. And as the speaking comes, it is the frequency of the intelligence of the upgrades happening. So what we're speaking of is happening now. And so as there's an attunement and an openness and a receptivity, in a way we could even say a willingness to just not know and to be carried, we start to just notice that the system is revealing more of the intelligence and truth of who we are. And we can experience and feel and sense that in many different ways. But it's like there's a knowing, and that's the most important clue that something is shifting, is that we feel lighter. We drop into that sense of being, or a sense of knowing, sense of recognition. We feel maybe just the peace and the stillness and the silence. Or we might feel more of an aliveness, and more of a sense of the longing coming alive, like a real fire that just wants more of itself, right? So however life is moving as you and your system right now, just to receive it. Just to receive it. The glory is that every time that we open and we move through something that gets transmuted, our system upgrades, and then we have more capacity of our multidimensionality as intelligence, as consciousness. And we open to, in a way, more love, more light, just more reality. And it's an unquestionable knowing. We don't ever have to say, yeah, I'm not sure. It could be this. It's like, no. It's an unquestionable knowing. And it might not be able to be expressed in words very easily, although it's always worth a try. The stumbling doesn't create any issues, but it's all about the frequency transmission field. It's all about the resonant light, the resonance of being, and coming to recognize that subtle perception that can notice the refined, more subtle nervous system and subtle body, and open to be able to feel and sense the light body, we could say the bliss body, in a way so as not to just be prioritizing and limiting ourselves just with the sense of the physicality and the physical body. Because as we open multidimensionality, we start to realize that the subtle body, the light body, is where refined perception is happening. And it's where the knowing, the true heart knowing is happening. And as we open to, in a way, prioritize the intuitive knowing, the heart's knowing, it's like we're switching our operating system from the operating system of mind-body limitation to the infinite, unbounded, eternal, timeless operating system of light technology, of alchemy, right? So that's when we're shifting our system from the mind-body sense of, I need to solve these problems, I need to fix and change, and we're shifting to an operating system that's all about alchemy, transmutation, and light healing. And light healing is frequency healing, right? It's the frequency transmission that doesn't heal by fixing, it heals by revealing the true nature. And the beauty is that you already are this, you already know this, you are the wisdom light, you are the intelligence. So as the words come, it's really about, through the recognizing, it's about confirming in your own system what you know to be true. Like a, yep, 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 okay, yep, yep, not sure about that. Okay, yep. It's just about allowing. And through that allowing, that's what nourishes the consciousness and upgrades and receives the recalibration. It's like saying yes to the divine upgrades as you recognize something, and that's the intelligence coming online. The recognizing brings the light transmission of upgrade that is then repatterning the field as we speak. And everyone is receiving completely unique upgrades. And yet we're joined in one frequency field that in our joining gets amplified. And that amplification is then like the more refined flows of intelligence. So how marvelous, eh? What an incredibly magnificent system of intelligence, and how incredible to really feel the truth of what we are. And it's almost as if when we start realizing this, it's like, problem? What problem? Right? It's like we just enter the kind of revelation and celebration of realizing, wow, this is the special mission. This is the way. This is the truth. This is bringing alive a sense of knowing. And then it's like a sense of knowing, which is the heart knowing and true deep intuition. We realize we can't just go to the mind and systemize it and be like, okay, I've got to remember this, because then it's like, oh, how did it work? What do I have to do? Because it's not operating. That's not the operating system. The operating system is through intuition and transmission of light and grace. And we just open to this by opening to grace, by opening to the presence of being and the field, and then refining and nourishing our capacity to receive, really, is what's happening. We receive what we have the capacity for, and our capacity refines as we rest here. So that's why satsang as a field is a really beautiful, nourishing possibility, because it's not about learning anything, and definitely not about fixing problems. It's about kind of infusing in like a warm bath of goodness, of frequencies of goodness, frequencies of love, and just letting those frequencies just get right in there. Get right in there to all the places that need a little uplift, a little reassurance, a little support, a little guidance, a little hug, right? A little holding. And as we just rest, it's like saying, okay, great glory, I'm yours. Do with me what you will. I'm totally open to any and all upgrades that you have in store for me. Totally, move everything around. Whatever is needed, I'm just saying yes. And then we just rest in this deep soaking, infusing in the frequencies. Mm. Mm. And the beauty is that as we rest here and we infuse, we realize that the infusion isn't coming from anywhere outside. And it's not even the appearance of someone sharing an infusion. It's that we're joining in a field that's always an infusion. And in a way, I'm just kind of the tour guide. I'm just employed as the tour guide right now, just to point to what you can see out of the bus window if you care to look a little bit more closely, right? And you start realizing, wow, this is just a tour into the landscape of my own consciousness. And it's not saying you'll never have this experience again unless you stay on the bus with me, because I am actually the one that is showing you. It's a tour which reveals the capacity that you have and connects you to your own unique, perfect connection to source, and recognizing and remembering the intelligence that you are. And then the beauty is that it's like you say yes, and you come on the tour and you infuse, and then as you infuse, you start to feed the field with your frequencies of the remembrance of goodness. And then the whole field starts to uplift, right? Because everyone on the tour is joining in the refinement of the frequencies and the celebration and the joy. And as we open and receive, and there's a flow, it's like we're just giving and receiving. We're giving and receiving. We're in this natural exchange. We're giving and receiving. We're giving and receiving at a frequency level, right? We're just giving and receiving, giving and receiving. And it's just this free-flowing glory where as we receive, we give. As we give, we receive. It's like we can't really move in the true flow. We can't really only give or only receive. That's all part of the old technology, the old operating system that's kind of all about bargaining and suspicion and uncertainty, right? And fear and scarcity and lack. It's like when we're in this free flow, we realize that there's just a divine current, and that it's absolutely wired in wholeness to completely just keep nourishing itself. So we enter a flow of what true abundance is as our true nature. And as we enter a flow of abundance, we realize that as we, you know, that, and that's the beauty of this tour, is that we start by receiving. We receive, and then and then it's like when our tank is filled, we start giving. And as we give, we keep receiving, and we're flowing, and then we realize that we're just in this glorious flow and natural exchange, because it's one unified field, and it's not me and you and that one and this one. It's one glorious field that's just giving and receiving and nourishing itself, seeing itself, loving itself, caring for itself. And it feels like it knows itself. And this is the flow of the knowing, right? Of consciousness knowing itself, right? And this is the dynamic aliveness of the flow of the Shakti, right? Is that it's constantly in complete flow of surrender, just surrendering into itself, just giving itself in surrender, in surrender, in surrender. And it's in complete devotion to itself, just bowing to itself, just for the sake of just loving itself and just honoring itself and just nurturing and nourishing itself, just bowing into itself. It doesn't want anything back, and yet somehow what it gets back is a kind of nourishment that's just free flowing within the field of wholeness, the field that's so whole that it never divides and separates. It's self-sustaining. It sustains itself gloriously, holistically. It just keeps folding into itself and nourishing itself and loving itself, and in absolute devotion to itself, in this purity of how love just loves is devotion, right? It's a natural devotion. And the surrender is just the willingness to just not hold on to a sense of me and mine, but this constant way that life just surrenders into itself. And that is what keeps us in the ever-present now, just now, 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 right? The time is now, now. And we realize the timeless being that we are, and that's eternal life. And then we don't need to hang on to life or be fearful of death, because we enter this realm of knowing that life doesn't die, that nothing that is true ever dies, that we're living this reality, and that in a way the play of time is a kind of borrowed dance. And we wear this costume, and we use the possibility of this borrowed time and this dance of wearing the costume to kind of run around the game board and clear as much karma and sprinkle enough sparkly seeds of love and truth while we have the possibility. And so that when the time, comes where God and glory says, okay, it's time to give back your costume, you just surrender it willingly with just gratitude and the frequency of God vibrating in every cell of your body, and just gratitude and love and great glorious knowing, singing, on the lips, the tongue is just only God, only God, only God. Sure, take my costume, take my costume. Let me stand naked in the light with you, as you. Sure, I'm up for that, right? And then we stop fearing death. We're willing, we're ready. We recognize that it's a natural process of being absorbed back into the pure light. Wow, right? How beautiful and profound. And what a great possibility to not get a return ticket. Hallelujah, right? And that's the moment that you know that game over, right? Game over. I didn't need to win the game, right? I didn't need to leave a legacy, right? Your legacy is that you leave nothing behind but love, right? I remember now, I saw that on a tea bag a few weeks ago. Leave nothing behind. Yogi tea bags, they have a little message. It said, It said, leave nothing behind but love. Kept that one. I lost it. Actually, I left it in India. But it's a good one, right? Leave nothing behind but love, right? All of these ideas, got to have a legacy, got to leave like loads of stuff for people to inherit so they can know me and kind of sort through all my things and kind of, you know, maybe recognize what a great being I was and all of these things. It's like, no. Like you see yourself. You see yourself, you know yourself, you're known in God, you're seen in God and glory, right? So as the words come, as the frequency just dances within itself, just notice what are you coming to remember and know about yourself? How do you feel in this moment, right? There's a frequency of myth busting wanting to come in right now. And it's about busting the myth that in order to awaken to true nature, in order to really know yourself, that we have to, has to be hard, right? Now let's just take a moment to just enter like a deep recognition in this field of intelligence. It has to be hard, and it's a progressive journey of hardship and austerity. Which operating system do we think that idea is arising out of? Right? It's a little suspicious, right? Because, oh, we've taken that on as a spiritual truth, the highest truth. If I want awakening, if I want enlightenment, if I want to stop being the sinner that I am, this has to be austere and hard. You're going to lose everything, right? Now, which operating system is that idea arising out of? The one that says, or let's say the one that misunderstands, you know, when in some of the traditional teachings would speak of ego death. Now, of course, what a nice, healthy ego doesn't want to hear about is its death and the possibility of losing everything, right? So we start seeing like where these ideas and interpretations, which operating system this has come forward from. And then we start realizing, wow, I was a totally fully paid up member of that club. I totally invested. I totally invested in the austerity club and the idea that this has to be really, really hard. And it can be actually quite a big one to let go of. Like, ooh, what if I've invested all these years in austerity and making it hard and like clambering up the mountain with like dirt, you know, and blood and grit under my nails as I, you know, try to hang on. I don't want to let go of that too quickly, because what if all of the time and years that I've invested into that, what if I lose my credits if I take a little trip into the landscape of joy and abundance and glory? What if that's just a playground? What if that's not reality, right? So which operating system is that idea coming out of, right? It's the one that says you've got to fix and change and make it hard because your original bargain, your original compromise says this has got to be hard, right? Everyone around here is making this hard. This is how we do things on planet Earth, right? This is what it is to be a human. I remember seeing on the big notice board on the drive from here, well, to Courtney from Campbell River, there's a big notice board where there are some well-meaning Christians that post big messages. And once they had a big message that said, life is hard and then you die. I was like, wow, that's a Christian that hasn't actually received the great glorious message that Yeshua really brought to us. But it can be the message that so many believe, right? Life is hard and then you die. It's like struggle your way through. But what if there's another possibility? And the possibility is what life is inviting us into in every moment. And the way that we get to realize that this isn't just another concept or belief, and it's not a playground, it's not like a Disneyland, it's the actual reality. That life truly is a celebration, that love truly is the true nature, that reality is this flow of God and glory, abundance, of everything being self-sustaining, because that is the technology of the divine, of divine wholeness. And we are vehicles in our human lived experience of the great shift in consciousness from the belief in division and separation to the restoration and the remembrance of the wholeness that has never been divided, right? And actually, the way that we uplift the frequency of the whole is to be jubilant, to be in celebration, because the frequency of pure love, openness, freedom, the frequency of a being that is open to the field of being, knowing its own nature, and joyfully celebrating, that frequency is like a pure nectar for the collective. It's a nectar that is like just being offered as a reverberant field for the whole. And so again, we have to be willing to let go of that original compromise to say, okay, I'll be kind of miserable and mediocre, to a willingness to be radiant and bright and brilliant and shine the truth of the heart, to be in a glorious celebration, to let your joy and your happiness be a frequency that touches the beings in the constellations around you, right? As a frequency. It doesn't actually have to be as a spoken kind of evangelical sharing. You need to know this, you need to live like this. You just model it, you be it, you shine as it, you resonate as it. And that's what starts to sprinkle the seeds of truth, of love. And you nourish those seeds by nourishing the truth of that the heart knows, right? And the way that we recognize this truth is because it's a knowing of the heart, where the felt sense of peace, of joy, of happiness, of revelation is unquestionable, right? It's just something so different to any kind of feeling, sensing experience of, let's say, happiness that comes through cause, you know, that we feel happy because we have a certain experience, or somebody treats us in a certain way, or I don't know, we, you know, have a really yummy meal, or whatever it is, the things that seem to make us happy. This feeling, sensing frequency is just so beyond and so different, because it's freedom. It's actually resonating at the frequency field of love, and being in the flow of transmission, of being nourished, and just without doing anything, just giving your frequency. It's like wherever you are, you're like a walking blessing field, a walking field of transmission of light and love. That just by being in the blessing of your true nature, you're blessing everything around you, right? Silently, beautifully, mystically. So just to notice what is happening now. Notice how you feel. Notice what it feels to feel a sense of joy or truth or love or openness or peace or calm that in a way, in this moment, you know that this can go nowhere. You know this is your true nature. And that feels like a celebration. That feels like Yahoo, right? It feels like this is goodness. This is nectar, right? And yes, the mind operating system can sneak in because it's all happening very close, very seamlessly. The living reality and then the 3D limited experience and operating system. The mind can come in and say, yeah, how do I hang on to this? Oh, what happens when it goes? But it's just to be in the revelation that says this does not go anywhere. Even if you shift operating system, this is here. This is the truth of who you are. And it's this remembrance of what we're speaking of today, that it's not about kind of, let's say, trying to be in the 3D limited operating system and make that be unlimited. It's just recognizing that you're wired with a greater capacity and a completely different operating system that is yet fully, like, isn't being fully tapped, isn't being fully used, right? And in a way, the invitation here this morning is to fully open to the possibility of using more of the capacity of the true operating system, the true technology of love, and be nourished here and realize here that this goes nowhere. This is always here. And you're going to switch operating system in the process of evolution. But then you know, oh, but if I switch operating system, I know that it's not about fixing, changing, and that I just shift. I just shift frequency. And then I look upon life and whatever's happening from a frequency that then has the power to illuminate and reveal the true nature of everything, right? Has the power to call forward the unconscious, call forward the preverbal, has the power to call forward the discordance and repattern and reveal the same that's going on with everything that is the unified field, right? So in this, just touching in to tie what we're speaking of here momentarily into how hopefully you can also feel in the technology how that relates to everything in life, right? How that relates to the relational field of dynamics, how that relates to wealth and finance and money, how that relates to power dynamics, right? That when we're in this reality, there's in this flow of just giving and receiving, of a natural exchange and flow, true abundance, we start to really open to realize that power here is in balance. There's harmony. There's complete harmony. And that gives us the capacity to notice where there are power imbalances in our lived experience. It gives us the capacity to feel that relational, just like love seeing love, and no bargaining happening, right? No compromise happening, right? We feel that true dynamic of giving, receiving, and just pure nourishment happening. And we carry that as a frequency and a vision, a clear vision, into our relational dynamics. And we start seeing where there can be a seeking from the external, where we can see imbalance, trying to get, like, as a way of proving or being seen, ways of being validated, trying to get love from the external, trying to get nourishment from the external. And so then we bring that to then resources, and we see how we can have an idea then that resources are not available to us, but we can feel in the frequency of the unified field that all resources are available to us, that nothing, there's no division, that the imbalances that we think are in place are not really there, that giving, receiving, exchange, flow. And as we bring that frequency to look upon the ways that we can have fear about lack in resources and money and things that we think that we need, that we start realizing that there is no lack, right? And so we start to realize how this frequency of reality is a completely different frequency than the operating system of division and limitation. And the way to see through the limitations that we have in our life and conditioning and beliefs, the compromises that we're making, that we can bring the frequency of true abundance through knowing our true nature to look upon and to allow a transmutation of where we're holding discordance in any of these areas: power, resources, and relating, right? That we have then this capacity to look upon at a frequency that can see clearly and then has the power to transmute, which is this happening. Love, seeing itself, revealing love, light shining upon itself and revealing light frequencies, and the field repatterning, right? That there's no lack anywhere. And the more that we come to realize that there's no lack, we move in this flow that we're feeling, which is a flow of the generosity of life. Life is generous, right? It gives freely to itself. It's not asking anything back for itself. It gives to itself because it knows as it gives, it receives. And we can feel that multidimensionally, right? As we give, we receive. As we give, we receive, right? We're nourished. By nourishing ourselves, we are nourished. By aligning with God and glory, we realize that the one that nourishes us is God, is our absolute unquestionable connection to the divine. That's where the nourishment is. And then in a way, the play of life is about seeing our discordance around where we think nourishment is lacking and returning all of those ideas to the divine, returning resources to the divine, returning our energy to the divine, right? And in a way, within the play, where we ask for exchange, we start to see the technology that where we ask for exchange, it's actually the divine asking through us. Please bring the resources back to the divine. Please bring everything back to reality so that we can truly live in this unified field, right? The divine asks through us, right? So again, where we can have these ideas that we shouldn't ask, or we can have ideas that that we shouldn't actually have abundance, that it's spiritual to not have abundance, we actually realize that that's again coming from the operating system of lack and austerity, an idea that this flow of true abundance actually, it's like life allowing life to live itself fully without a feeling of lack, without a feeling of lack of resources, feeling of lack of not being able to move freely, right? So having resources allows us to move freely. We're supposed to move freely. The divine life moves freely, right? So where we feel like we're not moving freely, there's an opportunity to free something up. And again, by bringing an alignment with the frequency of true divine nourishment, that when we realize that we're nourished in the divine, we start working for the divine, right? We start realizing to start with that somehow we're working for the divine as an instrument for the divine. And then we start to realize that we're one with the divine, and the divine is just working through us, and got no idea what's going on ever, right? And but we know that it's coming from goodness, right? And we discover in this frequency of goodness, in a way, everything that we're longing for, everything that we feel like is missing in our life, is available to us. And we're in a story of lack, a lack of love, a lack of resources, a lack of power, right? Powerlessness, hopelessness, that wherever we're looking. And so in a way, to even just take a little inventory and say, okay, where am I in lack, a lack of power or powerlessness or hopelessness? Where do I feel like a victim? And, where am I feeling like I'm not free? Where am I feeling like love is limited or held back from me? Where do I feel that resources or nourishment or the ability to move freely and in a way be nourished in the ways that feel true? It can be a really beautiful way of just recognizing, in order to illuminate and bring all of that energy that's kind of bound up within itself in limitation and ideas in the old operating system, bring it all over. And how we bring it all over is by transmutation through the nervous system. We feel the feelings. That's how we carry the balance over to something that can truly rebalance, right? Like a balance transfer, right? We feel it through the nervous system. We transmute it through feeling, sensing, not pushing away, not making wrong. We allow a transmutation to happen that brings it all to the new multidimensional paradigm of living reality, living heaven on earth, right? This is what we're here for. We're here to be a new creation, the special mission that we've been wondering about and that we start to have a whiff of. It's about being a new creation, being the creation of God and glory, of heaven on earth, right? So just to notice what is happening now, what's happening in your system. Does it feel like there's a full almighty yes to the upgrade to reality? Does it feel like an almighty yes to living as wild, exuberant joy? Does it feel like an almighty yes to live fully resourced in the divine flow of abundance and true natural exchange? Does it feel like an almighty yes to receive the frequency and revelation of perfect spotless love in your heart and your knowing of heart? Does it feel like an almighty yes to receive your identity in God and glory, to receive the full power of redemptive love, and that there's nothing to fix or change, that you are this living reality? And as you touch into it and revel in the recognizing, your frequency shifts and you become a field of blessing and transmission and activation that has the power to bless and transmute your own life and the places that have not yet been balanced transferred over. But you also have the power to bless and transmute the whole field around you where you feel discordance, to bless and bring the blessings of love and true revelation just through frequency to the beings in your companionship and family constellations around you. How magnificent. How beautiful. And if that isn't a special mission, I don't know what is, right? And the glory is that the special mission is in truth a holy mission, right? That it's a special mission on the level of the holiness that isn't a special as in divided. It's a holy mission that we're all here for. And in a way, as we undivide out of specialness and the need to be seen in division, in that 3D paradigm, we open to the holy and the revelation of the unified field and realize that we're all here with the same mission. And that mission is to shine, right? Shine the light of the divine right here on earth. To shine as the brilliance and radiance of perfect spotless love and the divine heart. That's what we're here for.